Life Hoops families, just wanted to take a moment and give our players and parents some information about the press break philosophy. We'll be going over this during our squad level practices, but some players may be better visual learners, and this will give them a good preview of what we're teaching. So the first thing we need to recognize is the three rules of the press break that we use at Life Hoops. Number one, I catch, I look. Every time a pass is caught, players need to square up and look down court using the chin and pivot. So put the ball in the chin position. It's preloaded for the hard chest pass going forward. And getting the ball ahead is our first option. It also breaks the bad habits where that first reaction is to take a dribble with their head down and often go right into where the trap wants them to go, because trapping defenses will encourage the dribble over into the corners where players are then forced to pick it up and trap. The other thing we have to be aware of are the heroes who attempt to break the press by themselves and catch the ball and try to get up the sidelines or dribble around all the defenders with their heads down. I cringe whenever a player does this at the practices because it gives a false sense of security and confidence that that's going to be a long-standing option. It's just not. From time to time, a hero might be able to break the press by themselves, but we have to work as a unit to pass through. So I catch, I look is the first rule. Second rule is to never throw the ball backwards towards the opponent's basket. This is a rule both against a press, but also on offense, where we don't want our players turning around and throwing it backwards. Puts us in very bad situations. So always advance the ball forward and get the ball to the middle of the floor as soon as possible. We want to catch a ball out towards the free throw line extended. We don't want to get caught in the opponent's paint area, especially underneath that basket. There's a purple line at Nate Smith's gym that we say, hey, you need to be the other side of this line to catch the ball. We need to stretch that defense out. And then the third rule is we have to move more than our opponents do. So I pass, I cut. I've got to move, and I have to move with a purpose. So take a look here, and you'll see that our move with a purpose, when I'm lateral cutting, so I'm trying to go from the inside out or the outside in, I need to move more than a couple of feet. Literally, sometimes it looks like our players are just dancing back and forth, moving a couple feet. When they move, they've got to move 10 to 12 feet per lateral cut in order to gain some separation between them and the defender. So all players have to move together. So taking a moment here, talking about what chinning is and what it isn't, the reason why we want to chin the ball is we want to get the ball up to where officials can see contact into our hands and the ball is already loaded for a chest pass. This isn't a dirty move. It's not throwing elbows at opponents. It's the legal method for protecting the basketball against trapping and swarming situations. And you can see, we love Luke, but in this case, he got it and he pulled it down to his stomach area, and 33 is making a lot of contact, whereas in Riker here, that is very minimal contact with the hand, but that was a foul. So we want to make sure that we have our elbows up so refs can see that contact happen to us. The other thing that our players have to start thinking of is to understand where the red zones are and where the green zones are on the court. I am seeing a lot of players during the press break drills in our transition game. A lot of players are trying to catch the ball right in here. And sometimes we get 2-3 kids standing right here. And if you'll notice from the observation area, that's the time in which the pressing team will get 3, 4, 5, 6 baskets in a row. Pressing is designed to speed up the offense and create mistakes. So we've got some red zones and some caution zones. We don't want to be in the sidelines. The closer we get to the middle, the better off we're going to be. So that moves us to being able to understand what our standard formation is when we come out. Now we're positionless, so I've got numbers on here just to help with the floor spacing. But basically, our top ball handlers, whoever is really comfortable handling the ball, needs to be the one to take it out of bounds. We then can go with a stack or I formation with our next two ball handlers, and sometimes even bigs work really well in this spot here to create some space to read what the defense is going to give us and be able to move from there. Because when the players are stacked up, the defense doesn't know where they're going to go. And these players need to communicate with each other and use hand signals for two to point behind his back which way two is going to go. And then three goes the opposite direction if it's a split, or if it's a man press, we're going to set a screen and try to set that person deep. For the players in the back row, we want them to come to half court. And what I say is find the volleyball post opening, because most gyms are going to have some kind of a volleyball post. That's a good landmark to go to. So this is kind of our standard formation against any press that's going to give us some options. First thing we need to do is recognize, is it a man-to-man press or is it a zone press? A man-to-man press is going to be easiest to recognize when you get a player stacked right in front of the ball, and then players are coming up into a deny position or close to every player in our alignment. If we see this, it's a man-to-man press. Now, the other variety of this man-to-man press could be how we at Life Hoops do our pressing. We haven't done a whole lot of the full court press yet. Seventh graders did this a little bit at the scrimmage, but what we do is the player guarding whoever has the ball comes back behind the formation somewhere around the 3-point line into what we call the linebacker role. And the reason why we do that is because depending on where these players break, if the ball is passed into here, then our linebacker player is coming over to cut the ball off while our other defender comes over and sets the trap, and then our other defenders would shift over. So still got a lot of ways to go because we have to play really good gap man in the half court before we can get into the full court sequences. But that's a little bit of an advanced preview of where we're going. But for the purposes of this video, we want to make sure that we understand whether it's a man press or a zone. So I'm going to clear the defense for a second here and talk about what our man press is with our launch option. This is our preferred scenario, and one of the reasons why we want the space in this area is because 3 is actually going to come down and set a screen for number 2's person. So 2's going to cut down this way, going out, and then is going to streak straight up the floor. While that cut is happening, after the pick happens, then that player is going to pick, and then depending on where the easiest opening is, they're going to roll into the open spot of the floor. And then 5 and 4 against a man press are going to cut hard to the basket, because there's a good chance that they're going to outrun their defender and give us a chance to get a high pass up to them. And if we can catch the ball anywhere out in this area in here, that's going to be really good for us, and we're probably going to break the press in a couple of passes. So we'll see that the pass was executed. There goes 2. Now 3 is in there. 4 and 5 have come up to that position. We want to get the ball up to 2 if possible and make that pass here. That would be our first look in that go or launch situation. And then once 2 has the ball, everybody else advances forward, because once we get the ball in the middle of the court, we should have space to dribble. Now, in the case where this launch has happened, so now we've got maximum movement. So this player, for whatever reason, was covered. We were not able to get the launch out, and we're going to in the ball here. Once that ball is inbounded, player one has to come straight up the middle of the court. It's just like the full court layup drill that you see us do on practices. These players are looking and reading to see where the help is. Once caught, five is going to advance forward. And this is where the need to move really comes into play, because it is two's job, who curled all the way out this way, to sprint back and be the relief valve. The reason why we cross cut on this is because it confuses the defense and teams don't do this. So assuming that the cuts are made properly, what we're going to end up with is this situation here. Three has the ball, two has come back and is forward of the ball. So we're not passing the ball backwards. One is our primary option right here in the middle. And then 4 and 5, you'll see that they've advanced down the court. So we want to hit one of these players. And oftentimes this is going to be our player that's open, because it's just not a common way to break the press at this level, and is very effective. So you can see once one gets the ball, players advance, 2 or 3 stay closer, but far enough away and forward to be a safety valve for the ball, where we continue to get the ball forward. So got to really recognize what we have here. Now, if we go back a slide and we see this position here where maybe the inbound came back to number 2. So now 3 made that pass, is going to cut up to the middle. And then 1 that flared is going to come back and be the help, with 4 and 5 advancing again. And again, it's about spacing, keeping myself away from defenders and out in the open with a lane to see my teammate. So then again, we get the ball to 3 into the middle, and off we go to the races. So now we're going to pause for a moment and take a look at common zone presses that we might see. This is a zone press recognition, so that's zone. This is called a 2-2-1. That's going to be a matchup. We can still do our launch sequence where this player hits into the middle, this player comes down, and 5 and 4 crash down. That's always a good way to see what's open, but you have to trust players to move on that. So what that looks like, if we execute the launch option where the player streaks up the middle, is now you can see where everybody has moved to. 5 is going to draw some attention, 4 is going to draw some attention. And if they don't come, then we've got an easy space to outlet to our players once they get set up in this spot, because 4 and 5 should be able to come into those green areas right in here. 3 gets into that kind of that dangerous pink area, but if we move fast enough, it'll be okay, because remember, 1 is going to streak up the middle as fast as we can, where the help defense and the trap is going to have a hard time adjusting over. So as you can see in this case, the launch was open. We can get it to number 2, but if the launch isn't open against the 2-2-1, now we're going to be in that stack formation, and maybe the guards will say, and this is something they got to talk about, split, 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 in which they break hard and cross each other up, trying to get out into the open areas outside of the paint, to force the defense to have to adjust and get open wide. So if they make those movements, now they're in this position as 4 and 5 continue to find where those gaps are in the defense. And you see the goal here is that we're trying to open up the middle to get a quick pass back into the middle. So in this case, let's say the ball goes up here to number 2. 1 is going to streak up the middle. 5 is going to take off when that pass is made. 4 is going to move out to where that pass is made, and 3 is going to move and stay in that lateral position. So that's what we would be looking for primarily out of our split formation, is be able to advance the ball up to number 1 and catch that gap. Or if this person comes up to play the gap, then we can go over top to number 5 where we get the 2-on-1. That's a very common play for us as well. But it all starts if I catch, look, and have that ball up in the chin position to where I can launch that pass quickly and efficiently. So what'll happen if we get that ball up to number 1, it's really a jailbreak at that point, because we're going to have a 3-on-1. These defenders, a lot of times, especially at the middle school level, they almost feel as if that's not their responsibility once the defense is broken, and they just kind of hang back. So that's one of the reasons why I'm not a big fan of zone presses at this age, because it teaches that front line that they don't have to protect the basket. So once we get that ball to the middle and going forward, it's a good thing for us. But again, it happens with passing, not with driving. So next press to recognize is our diamond press, or a 1-2-1-1. And you can see that it's a diamond. These players make the look of a diamond. Typically what's happening is that player and either this player and that player are going to trap the first press. It's a really nasty one at the youth level, especially if kids catch that ball in there, because they end up getting trapped underneath their own basket where it's even hard to throw over top of it. So we've got to recognize that we've got a diamond in front of us. And then what we have as we get ready to move the floor from that stack position is we can go launch. So 2 can come out, 3 can cut across. Against a diamond, 4 and 5 typically have really good success getting open. And in the 13U scrimmage against Grafton, they used a diamond, and we were able to hit the 4 and the 5 positions pretty easily. But what you'll see is if we try the launch, now they've moved into their positions, we should have some openings. Let's say in this case with the movement, we'll throw the ball to number 3. So we'll put the ball in number 3's hand here. Here comes that press over. This player is reacting to what number 2 is, and then you see number 1 is slipping in behind that trap, while this player has to make a decision of either staying with the trail, sliding up that way, or picking that one. And then we should have 4 open streaking if we can't get it to 1. More often than not, though, 3 to 1 is going to be the opening, because we can get it to them over the top quicker before the ball gets there, leaving us with something that looks like that as the ball is moving forward. So once getting around the defenders, 3 makes that move forward, 2 gets ahead, and 4 and 5 also get down the floor, where it gives us a good 3-on-2 or 3-on-1 option. The other option that we need to talk about here is if they line up and they decide to split, where 2 broke that way, 3 broke over there. Now we're kind of splitting the diamond a little bit. Ideally, we want to get the pass to where there's a little bit more space. So trying to get the pass over to number 2 would be our key, or getting over the top of these 2 defenders, looking at 5 or 4. We don't really want it to go to number 3. 3 is a distraction to pull these defenders over and out of the way to open up the middle for us. So now that the ball has come in, you see that number 1 made that pass and instantly got ahead of the diamond. This player, because 3 gets closer, gets kind of pulled over with 3, which gives number 1 or our inbounder a streak chance to get it to there. Or you can typically get it over top to number 4. So again, advance the ball forward and quickly with passing rather than dribbling is going to break that press, because we make one pass and the ball is already in the middle. These defenders tend to lag behind because what they're hoping is that that second line pokes and steals the ball and then can come forward for that fast break. Really junk defense in my mind and in my opinion, which is why we don't teach it at Life Hoops. I'd rather have them understand how to protect the basket as a unit and not have anybody just hang around for cheap baskets, because by high school, that opportunity is not even there. So in review, players really need to understand where the green areas and the red areas of the court are. We do not want to get that ball picked up in any of those red areas against a press or a trap. That just they call them the coffin corners in the grave. We got coffin corners where they can use the corner as an extra defender in these areas. And then this is kind of the graveyard right here where good teams just kind of fall apart. So as long as we get the ball out into these open areas, and especially into this area, the result is going to be very happy for Life Hoops and one that we want. So in review, the three rules: I catch, I look. I catch a pass, I square up, I look, I get that ball in the chin position so I'm ready to advance it quickly. Break that bad habit of catching and putting my head down and trying to dribble, because heroes who try to break the press themselves with dribbling are ultimately going to hurt us. We get those three quick passes, we're up the floor, and we become unpressable. Never throw the ball backwards. Always advance, always advance, always advance. And then move more than your opponent. Do not move 1 to 2 feet and try to dance with them. Get that ball out there and get it moving quickly. So we do those things. The results for Life Hoops are very good. Thanks for your time. Please look this over a couple of times. We will continue to drill this at practice, but for the players who kind of want to see it mapped out, hopefully this is a helpful resource. So thanks for your time, and if this works, we'll share some more videos. Thanks, and have a great day.